Hey, everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of the Upper Cervical Corner. My name is Dr. Kramer, and we are finishing out 2024. Man, it's crazy to even think that. It feels like just yesterday we were starting in January, really looking forward to the year and all the fruits that it would bring for us, right? From all of our labor, all of our time working in the field and harvesting and, you know, doing all the things that generate another year, right? And this morning, I have started a new book. And in my book, it was discussing the idea of what is called the speed of joy. And in this, we went over this concept that it's not being busy, it's not being lazy, it is doing what is necessary in the time you have been given with the right amount of energy for the specific task at hand. And so with this, I started thinking about the process of undergoing upper cervical care. And I started thinking about this from the process of how someone might develop a disease and then how somebody might develop health. And it led me to this idea that timing is everything, right? Because when you start with this disease process, I realize I switched hands on you, but when you start with the process of disease, it takes time to generate that, right? And when you want to start generating health, it takes time to generate that. And so in the reading today, I had 3 points that I want to talk to you all about. And I want to dive into this because there are many times inside of the practice that somebody may ask a question along the lines of, why can I not just receive all the adjustments at once? Why do they have to be spaced out? Why do I have to go through X number of appointments? Why do I need this number of visits? Why can't we just get this one and done, right? This Western ideology that we've been subjected to of, speed, 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 faster, 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 more efficiency, more efficiency, more efficiency. And I think what we can draw this up to is these 3 points. And the 3 points that we have is number one, creation is ordered by rhythm. Now, if you have ever worked around a farm, the farm has a rhythm, right? You cannot constantly be in harvest mode, right? There is this phase that you have to go in, which is preparation for planting, right? You have to prepare the field. You have to prepare the micronutrients, the soil, right? You have to ensure that you're not burning out all of those nutrients so that you can actually have a relatively good yield of your crop. Your cows cannot be perpetually fertile, right? They're not going to be laying babies every single day. I mean, it depends upon the number of head of cattle you have, but you get the point behind this, right? There is a rhythm to the cycle of life, right? Everything around us has this rhythm. We have seasons, right? We have winter, we have spring, we have summer, we have fall, we have the harvest, we have the planting season, right? We have all of these seasons. So why wouldn't it make sense that naturally our health would be generated by a rhythm, right? Now we can interrupt that rhythm, but for the most part, we have cycles. Women have a 28-day hormonal cycle, men have a 24-hour hormonal cycle. Things of nature happen in a rhythm. Number two, very few things benefit from being done quickly, right? So if we go back to our analogy of farming, you do not see quick yield crops being generated. And if you do, you typically see fields that are burnt out, that are used for a short-term capital gain, and that for longevity of that specific plot of land will be sacrificed because you're in a tight bind and you need a bunch of money, right? For the most part, if you look at farming, they actually have a very long cycle of what they are looking at for their field rotation, for their animal rotation on those fields, and for how they work through a harvest year after year after year. You're not perpetually, fertilizing the same field as fast as you possibly can to get that high yield out. As opposed to what you all may think, we actually respond to time in these nutrients, right? To create density of a product or to create healthy food for us, right? Very much is the same with our bodies. Very few things benefit from being done quickly, right? I know that many of us wish that we had the rockin' six pack or the bikini body, but both of us know that that does not happen fast, right? That is a slow, habitual process based upon many, many factors, right? And number three that we have here is that most things are worse off when we rush them. You've heard of yo-yo dieting. You've heard of the idea of like, last minute deadlines and how you rush to get a paper done and it's not really that good, right? It actually ends up being like a C minus when you get it back and you're like, whew, at least I got it turned in. So, from these three things, what I want to break down for you is this idea of what the upper cervical process looks like, because what we are attempting to establish here is ideal timing. And when we say ideal timing, we are attempting to look at the right spacing of an adjustment given at the right time, at the right place for your specific presentation. Now, at the very beginning, we are learning your body. That is why we see you more frequently, because we are trying to graphically monitor the rhythm of your neurological performance or lack thereof, right? So, what we are looking at is we are measuring, right, a rhythm, measuring neuro rhythm, autonomic rhythm. We are trying to find out, are you in a constantly subluxated state or are you in a adaptive state, right? Ideally, you are living in this. This is our goal. But for many of you, when you start here and you are ill, you are sick, you are starting in this subluxated state and you are trying to build your body into an adaptive state, which takes time. This cannot be rushed, right? This is where many of you would ask us, say, well, hey, doc, I know you're recommending, let's say, 10 visits, right? How come I can't just come 10 days in a row and we can knock this thing out of the park? Well, it doesn't work that way in the body because your nervous system has a rhythm. Your nervous system needs time. And remember, we have that law up there that says nothing that is done rushed actually ends with good results, right? We don't yield healthy fruit. Most things are worse off when we rush them. Very few things benefit from being done quickly. That is why we have to implement this spacing of time where you have to go live life. And in between that, we have to actually check you to ensure that you are able to live life at an optimal performing state. As my great mentor, Dr. Andy Roberts, told me in this, really, it's measuring the cadence of the beats of a rhythm of a music sheet, right? So what we are looking at is the rhythm of your life. We are measuring the beats and finding out, is your rhythm of subluxation a once every 4 days? Is it a once every 7 days? Is it once every 14 days? Really, what can we stretch out that rhythm so that we can create this state of health that we all desire, right? Because that is really what we are striving for, is this perspective of health. What do we have to do to ensure that, one, the adjustment is given at the right time to allow the longest time between visits, longest time holding, right, to give you the most fruit possible of your health, right? That is what we are attempting to navigate when I say timing is everything in the upper cervical office. So many people are subjected to the chiropractic paradigm that you have to come in 3 times a week and that we're going to get adjusted the same way every single time, all 7 segments. We're going to be ram, bam, thank you, ma'am, see you later. You're going to come back on Wednesday, come back on Friday with no real evaluation of your adaptation, no real evaluation of creation or of your rhythm of life that you are working through. Seasonality wise, you may run into a rhythm that needs more care, more support, simply because there are unexpected things that happen that will implement or impede your ability to actually maintain health, right? You could have a death of a loved one. You could have a car accident. You could slip on the ice, right? You could have something where you walk out to the car and hit your head on the back of the minivan, like I do so many times, right? There are so many endless variables that can impede your ability to have a rhythm or have resilience to the rhythm of everyday life, that it's important that we always, always, always measure, measure, measure. In the upper cervical world, we are constantly measuring the presence of your neurological adaptation or the absence of your neurological adaptation. That is why our goal in care is to build a resilient state. Remember, we're looking at those two paradigms, disease, health. Our job is to take you from disease to a health state. And then our job is to continually keep that needle ticking towards health, right? You may relapse a little bit from a stressful event at work. You may have a stressful event take place in your marriage. You may have a stressful event take place with your children, right? But then your goal is to make sure that you are corrected so that you can move back to that state of health and sustain that successfully over time. That is what we truly manifest as health, right? Is this paradigm of having four pillars that are managed, right? Your intellectual, your spiritual, your physical, and your emotional health all have to be managed to give you that complete state of well being that is health. In doing so, we are supportive in nature. The upper cervical adjustment is designed to give you the right force at the right time to ensure that adaptation is sustained throughout the human nervous system. Now, for those of you who don't understand this process of adaptation, I encourage you to go over to my upper cervical series on YouTube. Go watch the video that talks about what adaptation is, because we have a lot of things that are just covered in this that you have to have a baseline understanding of. For those of you who understand adaptation already, recognize that when we recommend a visit that is spaced every 7 days, it's not about how you feel. It's about the current rhythm of your autonomic state. That is what we are measuring. So if your current rhythm is a 7 day state, it doesn't matter what your symptomatic presentation is. Whether you are feeling awesome or you are feeling terrible, you will more than likely need to be adjusted on that seventh day simply because your neurological system is working through that adaptation process and it needs that support every 7 days. Then, when you successfully get to 14, we make that recommendation for every 14. Now, if you have a relapse, yeah, we might go back to 7, but it may not be that way, right? Your body is a super important, very resilient mechanism that nature shows us that creation is ordered in this rhythm of life. And if we can sustain that rhythm over time, you will generate health. But if you impede that rhythm by being too busy, by rushing things, by attempting to generate health very quickly with pills and surgery, then you will recognize that you will generate nothing more than disease over time. So remember the takeaway today. Timing is everything. Everywhere around us, creation is ordered in a rhythm, especially when it pertains to your health. Very few things benefit from being done quickly. Most things are worse off when we rush them. So when you are underneath upper cervical care, our goal is to help you have the best opportunity for expressing creation. And that is done by checking you on your autonomic rhythm at the period that you can sustain upper cervical integrity. That's what I got today for upper cervical corner. Timing is everything. Don't do 10 visits in 10 days because it doesn't make sense. Make sure that there is adequate spacing to allow your body to adapt to the adjustment and to create and sustain a rhythm of health in your life.